Okay, part 2 of Satanic Ritual Abuse Victim Speaks Out. And so I believe I left off the church. Where I left off was church. And I just wanted to say that, because I was talking about Buddha and Jesus Christ and all that kind of stuff, Allah, all that kind of stuff. The way I see it, this is just my opinion, is, anything that's been in the hands of man has been corrupted. So, you eat the meat and spit out the bones. So, of course, I don't believe in everything in the Quran. I don't believe in everything in everything. I don't believe actually the entire Bible either. Like I said, it's a spiritual relationship. It's not a relationship with a book. I believe that, God is either about unconditional love or not, and so it's not in between. So he loves us no matter what. So, anywho, but the way the structure's put together church-wise in Christianity, it's really, anybody who has great intentions going into that, if they follow the general structure, it's going to be a problem eventually because it's not all based on unconditional love. I hate to say it, but it's not. It's structured around money and business. So, ultimately, there's going to be problems. And so, I think that's a lot of what we run into. It's not structured in the way that it needs to be structured. Is in my opinion. So, many people have stories to tell about, not being treated right in church or whatever. But, we're not supposed to have, we're not supposed to count on that ultimately. We're supposed to count on our own accountability and our relationship with the divine, and however that works for you. So, but, I had moved out of state and now live out of state and got involved in an international ministry. And within this ministry, they were going to Thailand and rescuing kids out of brothels. That's what I loved about it. But like I said, the way this thing was structured, eventually it was going to fall apart. So at that time, I had been through quite a bit of therapy. I still had my multiple personalities, and this is about, I don't know, 2007 is when I moved. But, so at that time, my ex-husband, my husband at the time, refused to pay for any more therapy. So once I moved, I didn't go into therapy. And I would have these interims, these breaks, it seemed like, where things would be calmed down with my personalities and then things would rile back up again. So when things riled back up again, I tried to convince him to pay for therapy and he didn't want to. I looked for help in the church. Big mistake. They found me fascinating. It was a big story. So, I put myself in their hands and not a good idea. So, they wanted to do it their way, and I taught them a little bit about DID, but they're basically trying to minister to me based on what their interpretation of God, and it wasn't working. It was making things worse. And my husband, worked out of town, and he refused to come home for 6 weeks. So here I'm in the throes of dealing with, memories and parts issues or personality issues. I have all of the children and, no support except for this ministry, and they weren't really, basically they were saying, well, do it our way or, out the door. We believe we're hearing from God, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. But anyway, so it had gotten to a point where it got so bad, and I've just really felt alone because, they felt that, no matter what my husband did, even if he hit me, that I shouldn't get divorced, and so, because I wanted to get divorced and I wanted to get some support and get better and, change the dynamic there. But they weren't supportive, and so it got really, really bad, and I had decided that I was done. I was out. I was going to kill myself, and this was serious. This is the only time I ever really seriously wanted to and tried. So basically, in 6 weeks he didn't come home, And when he came home in the morning, because I knew he would be gone all day with the kids, they missed him, I took 40 Xanax and went to sleep. And I shouldn't have woke up. So, but what happened apparently, because my daughter told me this, and poor girl, she was traumatized. But they came home midday and, saw me there and saw the pill bottle, and she wanted to call 911, and my husband said no, that we should pray, that they should pray. And so they prayed, and she said that I would get up out of the bed like this, like a marionette, and then I would fall to the ground. And I would do this like every 15 minutes. And so she was okay with not calling 911. He didn't want to call the church friends or nobody. So they went downstairs and left me there. And then it came to a point where she didn't hear me drop into the floor anymore. So she went up to check on me, and my husband went with her, and I wasn't getting up. And so she said, I'm going to call 911. That's it. And he was like, no, let's pray. So they prayed, and she said that my white started to foam out of my mouth. And basically my husband wiped my mouth, turned my head to the side, and said, okay, well, let's go downstairs. So that night, I have very very fuzzy memories. But apparently I got a hold of a glass ashtray, and I broke it, and I sliced my whole arm up. Now, people saw my arm, okay? I mean, it was just like mincemeat. But when it healed, I have no scars. I mean, I have pictures of this, but not one scar. And, I really believe that angels were keeping me awake. I believe that, in God's mercy, I don't have the scars here. I believe that my ex-husband wanted me to die. And so after this whole ordeal, he went and told the ministers, what happened, and they came over, and they looked at me, not him. I mean, this is a man who left me with the children while they were ministering to me, okay, because he wouldn't pay for therapy. And they looked at me and said, you're a liability, and we don't, we're not wanting to minister to you anymore. But if he leaves you with the children again, we're going to call CPS. So they gave him an ultimatum. And he didn't, he had promised to move, to where we had moved, and never did. He was making way too much money in the others, back at home. And so basically he told the children that I was a drunk, which I was drinking to cope, but I mean, that wasn't the issue. And took the kids back to Michigan and put me in an apartment and said I wasn't welcome to go, and just left me. And, the church basically left me at the curb too. And so, I was alone. And that was devastating, and it altered my relationship with my children forever. I mean, it's never been the same. And, they just further learned to blame me. So, but I'm not a quitter. I'm a fighter. So I had found this ministry in another state, in California, and apparently they had these, classes or something for emotions, and then they had one called Shabar Ministry. It's Bethel Church in Redding, California. They're known for their miracles consistent miracles. So a friend of mine from the church, she was a good woman, very good woman, love her to death. She drove me there, and I spent the weekend, and they ministered to me, and it was different. It was different than any therapy I went to or anything like that, but not that I had great therapy in Michigan, but this was just different. And so, I was doing better when I came back. And then, a couple months later, she took me back, she drove me back, and during that time, I spontaneously integrated. And I believe that was mercy as well, because, I was left alone, And, I had a lot of miracles happen to help me out. He was paying the bills, but, no extra. And I had, amazing things happen. I had been thinking I'd wanted to start a business with t-shirts, and, I have a brilliance. All people with DID have a brilliance in some area. They are genius in some area. For me, it's art. You know, sculpting in paper clay. I used to make beautiful Victorian gowns with the bustles and everything. I had my certificate in heirloom sewing, which is the white work with the lace from the early 1900s. Quilting, you name it. I could do it. And so, but I was not confident, and, I had these personalities. But here I was integrated, and, I was like wanting to do this t-shirt business, and so, it was amazing. This lady that I barely knew when I went to a church event, walked up to me and said, here, she gave me a check for $1,000 and said, God told me to give this to you for your business. And so, it went on from there. I mean, it was really awesome. Jesus has always taken good care of me. I've never had to beg for bread, but that doesn't mean I always trusted. So, but anyway, so, that was the end of the whole church thing. And my husband ended up coming back a year later with the kids and wanted to try and work it out. And I really didn't want to work it out with him, but I didn't have any other options. I was still married to him. I had not had a job in forever since we were, first married. And I was scared. I was scared. And he never, he made great money, excellent money. And he never invested in my business far enough for me to be independent. So, but that's what narcissists do. They can't allow you to be completely independent because they want you there, to cook their meals or clean or be there for sex or whatever, take care of the kids. So, at that point, I still had a lot of healing to do. And, after integration is traumatizing in itself. Just so you understand, I was used to chatter in my head. I thought everybody had chatter in their head. And the chatter was gone. It was like a deafening silence. Now I had to emotionally cope with everything. I could just switch out. And that was my whole life. I did that my whole life. So, it was very traumatizing integrating. Eventually, it got better, and I'm glad I'm integrated. But some people can't integrate. They could never integrate. It just wouldn't work. They have to gain cooperation between their alters, and it works. Me, I think I needed to integrate, but it was just a traumatizing way that it had to be done. I've always felt like, last minute. I've always felt like I've never been stable. I've never felt safe. The only time I've ever felt safe were in my dreams with Jesus, or, in the open visions. He gave me open visions, at times, which I wrote down, which helped me to understand things today that I would never have understood had I not, it's amazing how life does that. But, so we stayed together for a few more years. I had wanted a divorce. He would not give me a divorce. I was terrified to work. I eventually got a divorce. And after, 16 years of marriage, I only got 3 years of alimony. He really screwed me on that one. And so, but I went out, and I didn't want anything to do with church. I wanted to just go have a good time. So I started going to this bar, and I have to tell you, I had the time of my life. Just being free, and not having to deal with the altars. They were gone, and I danced all night, every night. I had a great time, but I did not prepare for my future. And I don't know why I thought 3 years was forever. I don't know why I thought that. So I ended up meeting someone, and, thought that was going to work out. And, I ended up making a lot of mistakes, which I'm still paying for. But at this point, everything's been stripped away from me. I'm basically homeless, and have been for about 3 years. And, women don't help me out. And men don't always have the right intentions. And I keep my dignity. So, I move around a lot because of that. So, but, I have to tell you, pain makes us move. Pain makes us deal. And I honestly have to say, at this point, I'm very grateful for where I'm at. And I know it's going to change, and I can change it. I have the power to change it. And I'm in the works of that. But I've had a lot of things to face and heal within myself so that I could keep my healing, and I feel like God made sure of that. I feel like the divine made sure of that. And, I couldn't have told you that months ago. I couldn't, I have my moments, where I'm just really frustrated, but I'm really aware now. I mean, I'm just really aware of how far I've come and the lessons I've learned and, what I can now create in my life, even with hard work. Sometimes it happens just like that. Sometimes someone comes in and helps, and sometimes you have to work toward it, So, I've been working really hard, and, whichever way it comes, I'm grateful. And, so actually, I'm actually starting a tarot business, or not tarot, but I read oracle cards intuitively. So I just created this YouTube channel, and I'll be starting that this week. So come back. But I just really felt like this message needed to get out there, and also I wanted to do a little bit more explaining. I kind of blazed over things. But I didn't know quite how much detail to share. Like I said, I'm new to this, so but I am willing to share more. So if in the comments, if you'd like to know a little bit more, ask the questions, because I have no problem with that. So I just really honestly, again, do believe that we're at a pivotal time in history. We're meant to evolve. We're meant to be aware, and we're meant to, run the planet ourselves, not have these nefarious people run our planet. And we have to give each other, if we want things to change for the better, we have to give each other benefits of the doubt. We don't agree with one another, and media heads, I've used that word. These are people who just totally have believed in the media no matter what information was out there. But, we don't have to hate people who are just not where we're at, or not aware, or not awake, and, hating people and making fun of people does not wake people up. We have got to start thinking better of one another. We've got to start loving each other and becoming that community that we were meant to be. One thing, and I'm not complaining, okay, but, I have many friends who know the position I'm in, and my parents, my family has completely abandoned me. There's two people in my family, my son and one of my brothers, who would help me if they could. One of them lives out of the country, and the other one lives in another state, and he's my youngest, and he can't be responsible for me, and I'm not asking for that. But, the rest of my family just really turned their backs on me. And, no place to live, no food. Where I'm at, it gets quite hot. It gets, 110, 118 degrees. And I forgive them, but I don't have to be around them and give any more of my dignity away. So, but I have friends that know the position I'm in, and it's just amazing to me how people can just be like, well, God bless you. It just really blows my mind. And honestly, it's not, I think that they think that's totally okay, because, so many people think that things are okay nowadays just because it's just the way it's been. And, we've got to help one another. We've got to, and I'm not saying, give everything and give to everybody. I'm just saying that, sometimes God brings along somebody who needs something. And that may be a hug. That may be an encouraging word. That may be a room to live in for a short time. That may be a little bit of money. That may be a ride somewhere. And we need to be aware. We've got to give more. We've got to come to this place where, the things we complain about, we sit here and we can sit here, and I see it on Facebook. I'd hardly get on Facebook. But I see it, you know, I get on there and people are just complaining. I mean, everybody's an expert on their complaints. And, you know, if we spent more time helping each other and, you know, giving and loving one another, the things that we don't like in society, we can change. So, you know, I'm talking me too. I mean, I'm having to come through this too. I'm having to wake up too. You know, there's been times I could have given and I didn't. You know, there's been times when I wanted to do something and I felt like, what could I do? You know, and, you know, there's no blame here. There's no blame. It's just, first things first, we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest with one another. We have to be willing to make some changes. And we have to be willing to look at other people with a different perspective. You know? One of the visions I had one time, and I'll never forget it, and this helps to explain. So, you know, I saw this huge, gigantic, I mean, we're talking gigantic, diamond in the middle of a room, and there were chairs all the way around the diamond, and it was like a cut diamond. You know, it was beautiful. And Jesus took me to one of the chairs, and he says, you know, to look, you know, bend down and look, and he says, what do you see? And I said, oh, I see these colors, and I see these angles. He's like, oh. And then we went around to another chair, and he asked me the same question. But now I saw different angles and different colors. And, you know, it took me a couple times more around the diamond, and, you know, he said, never forget that, you know, although people have different perceptions, you know, in this arena, you're all looking at the same thing. You know, and so, yeah, I thought, wow, yeah, it's a diamond. That diamond never changed. Just the angles and the colors, meaning perceptions. And so, you know, we can have different perceptions and still value the same thing. You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, please remember that there are children still stuck, you know, being abused and, you know, put through these horrifying rituals. And, you know, they need a way out. I mean, when 1 million children go missing every year, just in this continent alone, it tells you how long we've been looking away. And we need to pay attention. And, you know, these children and these people are going to need some help. And I understand that people have not had a grid for this sort of thing, could not even imagine that this kind of stuff was going on, and especially, you know, in her government. So, I get that. So educate yourselves. And those of you who've been through this, make the videos. People just need to be educated. You know, people just need to know what this is about, how it's affected people. You know, I'll have issues for the rest of my life because of what happened to me, but at the same time, that can all change for me. You know, I mean, when we do the hard work, when we're honest with ourselves, and we have the help of the divine, and we allow ourselves to be changed and evolved, we don't have to. We really don't have to. So, you know, I believe we can come into that time. We can make this world such a different place, you know, full of unconditional love, you know, that, and we can change things so dramatically that even this kind of thing doesn't have to affect us for the rest of our life. I mean, we can be so completely, totally changed, you know? So, anyways, I thank you for listening to me. It took me a while. It took me a while to do these videos, but I feel better that I have, and I feel like I've done something important. You know, we all want to live out the best of who we can be. You know, and we just have to sometimes take a leap of faith. You know. Anywho, like I said, if you have questions, let me know. And I'm going to be starting the Oracle card readings this coming week. So come back and check it out. I will be doing readings. I can do readings through Cash App, and I'll have the information below when I get started. And thank you so much for listening to me. And love and hugs to you all. Bye.